Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to our new initiative of Indian Economy Essentials, wherein every day we are going to take up one article that has appeared in newspapers and have an analysis of how relevant is this article for UPSC Civil Services examination. In today's video, let's have a discussion regarding windfall tax and the recent concerns that have been raised by the private sector investors regarding windfall tax. Now, some of you might simply say, sir, I have been reading the newspaper every day, but I have never come across any concern raised regarding windfall tax. Now, let me tell you a current affairs update. Very recently, there was a conclave or meeting conducted by the Government of India, Indian Energy Week, which was conducted in Bangalore. And during this particular discussion, some of the private sector companies related to oil and gas have raised concerns regarding Government of India's policy of windfall tax. Now, what concern has been raised? Should Government of India be worried about it, etc.? We'll understand that. But let me start with the basic idea of what is a windfall tax. Now, very recently you must have come across articles related to Russia-Ukraine war. Now, this Russia-Ukraine war started last year. It's nothing new, it started last year. Now, what is the importance of that with the article that we are discussing? Simple. Russia launched an attack on Ukraine. As a result of this, the supply of crude oil to the international market was disrupted. And whenever two countries will go to war like this, generally you see that the crude oil prices suddenly start going up in the international market. That's point number one. Second very important point, many countries imposed sanctions on Russia. As a result of this, exports or supply to the international market further went down. And now you tell me, when the supply will go down in the international market, what will happen to the crude oil prices? The crude oil prices in the international market shot through the roof. At one point of time, the crude oil price per barrel in the international market was around $140 per barrel. And that was the reason why many of the companies in India, which are related to, let's say, the oil and gas sector, have reported huge amount of profits. Even the ones which are owned by Government of India reported profits in the last year. Now, some of you will be thinking, sir, agreed, the crude oil prices went up and many countries imposed sanctions on Russia. What is the connection to India here? That is where the story gets very interesting. Because many countries imposed sanctions and stopped buying crude oil from Russia, Russia started selling the crude oil at cheaper prices. I will use the term cheaper prices. The technical term will be at discounted prices or lower prices to India. Within India, many companies started purchasing the crude oil at discounted prices, at lower prices, refined the crude oil, and now started exporting the output at higher prices, because in the international market, the crude oil price as well as the fuel prices were already very high. I hope you understand. The cycle is very simple. The crude oil prices were imported at lower prices, cheaper prices, because Russia was willing to sell it to us at lower prices. Now you have purchased crude at lower prices, you refine it, now you export it to international market at higher prices, thereby making huge amount of profit. Now, whenever because of these kinds of events, external events, you start earning huge amount of a profit, it is called as a windfall. And Government of India looked at it and said, I will impose a tax on such companies. Which is now referred to as a windfall tax. Government introduced this idea of a windfall tax in July 2022 and stated that we are going to review the windfall tax based on the situation in the international market once every 15 days. That's next very important point. Now, very often, that is once every 2 weeks, government has been revising the windfall tax. And recently also, it was revised a couple of days ago. Now, what is the importance of all of this? there are a lot of investors who want to invest in the oil and gas infrastructure within the Indian market. And in the current year itself, Government of India says we are expecting investment to the tune of more than $50 billion within the oil and gas infrastructure. More than $50 billion. That's a point number one. Second point, India is the third largest consumer of crude oil and one of the biggest importer of crude oil. Now, if you look at the total demand of India, out of the total demand in the global market for crude, India just accounts for around 5% of the total demand. I hope you understand. India just accounts for around 5% of the total demand in the international market. And this is expected to increase to 11% in the coming years. Now, why I am quoting all of these facts? For a very simple reason, you need to understand or you need to infer that there is a need for huge amount of investments within the crude oil market or within the crude oil infrastructure in the Indian market. And foreign investors saying, we don't have any problem. We are ready to invest. But that is where the windfall tax is playing a spoil sport. That is, it is creating a lot of uncertainties in the market. It is becoming a challenge for attracting private sector investment within the sector. Now, how so? Understand the next point. Private sector wants to invest, and whenever they want to invest, they will have certain plans. Plans in terms of total amount of investment, estimates at least, how much would be their expenditure, how much returns would they want to earn on such investment, what will be their estimated operational expenses, what will be their tax liability, etc., etc., etc. Now, in that context, Government of India, understand this, Government of India says, I'll keep on revising, I'll keep on updating or reviewing the windfall tax every fortnight. Every fortnight, I'll keep on revising this windfall tax. Now, you tell me, if you're an investor in this sector, don't you think this review policy of Government of India will create uncertainty for you? Right? It will create certain amount of uncertainty. You do not know what will be the tax imposed by the government after 15 days. That uncertainty is creating a headache for foreign investors. And that's the reason I said, many of these foreign investors have raised this as a concern to the government officials. And is there any indication that the government is going to withdraw this very soon? Again, there is no indication as of now. Now, many of you will look at all of the discussion and say, sir, if it is creating such a huge problem, why not remove it? Or why did Government of India implement it in the first place? Reason is very simple. As already mentioned, government said you are purchasing crude at a lower price or a cheaper price from Russia, selling it at a higher price, thereby making huge amount of profit, thereby making huge amount of windfall. I will impose a tax on your exports. Second very important reason, government has been able to increase the amount of tax receipts. Government has been able to increase or collect more and more tax receipts with such types of taxes. And the third very important reason, government was concerned that because in the international market the prices have been higher, these companies will purchase, purify, that is refine, and export all of this to the international market, thereby creating scarcity in the domestic market. Government imposed a type of a tax to reduce the competitiveness, of such exports. So these are certain very, very important points. Having said so, remember next point also. Government of India has been promoting investments in the refining segment. In fact, government couple of years ago announced that they want to increase the refining capacity within the oil sector. Right now, the refining capacity in case of India is somewhere around 250 million tons per annum. They want to increase it to 450 million tons per annum. So in this context, the issue of windfall tax has been creating issues or has been creating certain problems for the foreign investors specifically. So these are certain very important aspects related to windfall tax that was there in the newspaper couple of days ago. If you like this initiative, please hit the like button. If you're yet to subscribe to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS, kindly do it right now. Thank you, take care, have a great day.